I like that as a 16-year-old kid in high school, he was a starter and a major contributor on the #1 rated high school team in the nation. I also like that a lot of girls came by the house to visit with Will. Now, as a 12-year-old kid, this gave me amazing opportunities to hang out with the older chicks. Will would usually let me hang around for about 6 or 7 minutes before he would tell me to scram. But that was enough time for me to get a few words in and be told how adorable I was. And on that rare occasion, I would get a hug from a 17-year-old hottie. Now, for a 12-year-old kid in my day, it just doesn't get any better than that. I liked how he hung out and spent time with my kids when they were youngsters. He spent lots of time with the boys at the parks and the museums. There were trips to the Russian submarine and the Victory ship docked at the Los Angeles harbor. Andrew remembers a time when Uncle Will took him to shoot the guns. There were a few of Will's friends that came and lots of guns. Andrew says that was a very special day. Daniel recalls reoccurring visits to a particular donut shop for ice cream. Just so happened that when they would go, there always seemed to be the same girl working the counter. They always ate the ice cream in the shop. In time, the visits to that particular donut shop ended. Daniel thinks the counter girl just got another job. The boys also recall a game called Tank that they would play at home. Will was a tank moving in for the kill of the kids' military base, and the kid's job was to stop the tank. Will also spent a lot of time with his nieces doing all of the same things, well, maybe not playing tank, but the other stuff. He always offered a compassionate ear and good advice. Now, there's a story that I'd like to share, and it's a story about a rock. Actually, it's a story about a piece of slag that looks like a rock. This rock is very heavy. Derek knows how heavy it is because he picked it from Will's truck and set it in my mom's front yard. Quite possibly its final resting place. When Will was working at Griffith Company, the company was building a project at the Los Angeles harbor. Will was assigned to that project. The project was the Berth 142 enhancement project, where the company was expanding the existing marina. The scope of the project called for the reuse of existing land that had previously been used for the storage and loading onto ships of slag. Slag is a byproduct of steel manufacturing. The slag was sent overseas to make other stuff. One day, Will came across a rock, the same rock that is at my mom's house. But Will didn't see a rock or a piece of slag. Will saw a meteorite. With the help of his skip loader, Will took the rock from the work area and set it where the crews met for lunch. Soon, Will was telling stories at lunchtime about this meteorite. Will would describe its burning ascent into Earth's atmosphere and how quite possibly it was a small fragment of a much, much bigger meteorite. It could have been a fragment of the Vredefort crater in South Africa. The Vredefort crater is the largest known impact crater on Earth, some 190 miles in diameter from an estimated 6.2 mile wide meteorite. Or perhaps it was a fragment of the meteor crater in Arizona, also known as the Barringer crater, the first confirmed terrestrial impact crater on Earth. Soon, some of the guys were doing their own research and discovered the value of meteorites can be as high as $1,000 per gram, meaning 1 pound could be worth $1 million. Meteorites are more rare than gold, platinum, diamonds, or emeralds. Will would say, to touch one is to touch the cosmos. Some of the conversation at lunch centered around what the landscape of the Port of Los Angeles must have looked like some thousands of years ago when the meteorite may have hit Earth. He would talk about a peaceful evening where the back bay of the peninsula touched what would later be known as the Pacific Ocean under a calm, starry night that was interrupted by this meteor that formed into a fireball, also known as a shooting star, when it hit the Earth. And it hit the Earth in the very spot that they were working, possibly untouched by human hands until it was discovered just a few days ago. The crewmen were hooked by Will's stories, a blend of factual history and vivid description of conjecture. A couple of weeks later, Will had discovered the meteorite. After a couple of weeks, after Will had discovered the meteorite, it was still relevant news and conversation. Will sensed that all the conjecture about the meteor's value would soon be too much temptation for some folks, so he buried it at the job site. The rock was still being talked about at lunchtime, but now with a spiked interest as the meteor seemed to have vanished. Who took it? Who would show up at work one day in a limo announcing their retirement, having cashed in the rock? Soon after the meteor vanished, you could see some of the crew skimming through the dirt before and after work. It seemed that word had gotten out that perhaps somebody buried the meteor. As the efforts to find the buried meteor reached a crescendo under the cover of darkness, or perhaps on a Sunday when nobody was at work, Will uncovered the meteor and moved it to the rooftop of a shipping container used to store goods. There it stayed, undiscovered and at rest, until Will brought it home. After a while, the discovery and saga of the meteor became old news, and the conversations at lunch turned to other matters. When Will brought the rock home, he told my mom, who knows, it might be a meteor, or maybe it's just a rock. I'd like to think that Will thought it was just an old piece of slag, but maybe, just maybe, it could have been a meteor. Not a meteor to cash in on, even for $1 million, but one to touch and experience, because to do so is to experience the cosmos. One of the things I like most about Will is that while I saw a piece of slag, Will saw a meteor. While most people saw a rock to remove to get work done, Will saw an opportunity to tell a story and make lunchtime an adventure. And he would bring others into this adventure, and if you were so inclined, you would be rewarded with something other than another ordinary, routine lunch break. I also like the idea that when I look at the rock now, I don't see a rock or a meteor. What I see is an enduring quality that Will had to make life a bit of an adventure, and he would share those experiences with others. One of the things I like most about Will is when I look at the rock now, I can't help but think, if even for an instant, what if this very moment I'm experiencing the cosmos?